Are you and your spouse in debt? Do you want to get out of debt and then stay out of debt forever? Doesn't that sound good to you? I have my new friend with me today, Mary Hunt, who's written a book called Debt Proof Your Marriage. This book is hopeful, it's humorous, and it's practical. So Mary, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, nice to be with you, Carol.
But let's talk about that adjective that John used to describe you, cheapskate. Your book says that you're a cheapskate and proud of it.
I am proud of it.
Tell us why you're proud.
Well, I used to be anything but a cheapskate, and I lived my life so that no one would ever think I was cheap, and it really got me into an awful lot of trouble. How much trouble? You probably want to know. You know, I ran up more than $100,000 of unsecured debt during the first 12 years of my marriage, and it nearly sunk us. I'm telling you, Carol, I did everything wrong, and coming out of that, it took 13 years to pay it back, but it was a remarkable thing. And during that time, my husband started to call me his little cheapskate, and it was in a very loving way. I mean, it was indicative of the change that had happened in my heart and what I had gone through. So anybody can call me a cheapskate. I love it. I've turned it into something that's just glorious and wonderful. It means living below your means. It means saving for the future, and wonderful things have happened. So I love the word. I love it.
Well, I just love how what the enemy meant for evil in your life, God turned for good. Because now you help people like me and other people live well, live under their means. Now, your new book is specifically aimed at the marriage relationship and how to keep us out of debt. But one of the things you said in your book was this: emotional intimacy is the secret ingredient you need to develop financial harmony in your marriage. What did you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I truly believe that money problems in a marriage, I know this from experience, they're really not about money. They're about intimacy. And I mean that in the sense that until you have an intimate relationship, and I define that by being so free to be who you are, that no matter what you think, what you say, what you believe going on in your life, that your spouse knows about this and you know you're safe. You will not be rejected. That there's that soft place to fall where you have connected. Now, money issues, I mean, I didn't make this up. I've researched this. They are so deeply, deeply seated in our hearts, probably more than anything else. What we believe about money, its role in our life, the way we grew up, all of those things are so deep. It's really hard to learn how to share that by keeping up walls, which I did for so long. I really thought my husband would reject me and wish he'd never married me, maybe even divorced me, if he really, really knew way deep inside what I really believed about money. And so I hid it from him. And I went off and did my own thing, thinking that I could keep that up, and it didn't work.
So you made decisions based on fear,
right,
rather than on intimacy.
Right, because I was fearful if he really knew how much I loved nice things and wanted to have nice things and would do anything to have nice things, that he would reject me. So I had to keep up this front. And I did for an awful long time. And the thing I found out was what I thought he would, it was completely untrue.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I've heard it said that money is the #1 conflict in marriage. Is that true or false?
Well, many people think that money is the #1 reason for divorce. And we really can't come up with statistics to prove that, but you're absolutely right what you said. The #1 reason that marriages break up is unresolved conflicts. And at the top of the unresolved conflicts are money issues. So yeah, in a way, money differences. And the amazing thing is that marriage usually attracts opposites.
So true. Savers and spenders.
Savers and spenders. And when I say that, well, I'm absolutely the spender mentality in my marriage, my husband the saver. That doesn't mean that a person who's a spender is always at the mall, secret debt, you know, blowing through all that they have. It's more of a mindset. Now, my husband and I can look at the same 50% off sale. Let's say there's 50% off sale. My immediate response is, great, I can get twice as much. His response is, fantastic, I only have to spend half as much. Now, those sound similar, but they're completely opposite.
Complete opposite.
But the great thing is that those two kinds of mentality bring a perfect balance to a marriage.
Well, they really do.
Yeah.
They really do. So let me ask you this about money being the conflict in marriage. Is money really about money when it's a conflict issue, or are there deeper issues going on in the marriage relationship?
See, I don't think it's really about money. I mean, for me, I thought it was, but it wasn't. It's this whole thing of worries and fears. I feared if I didn't take control and go out there and get this lifestyle going, that our two sons would never have anything nice in our lives. The truth is that I needed that wonderful mentality that he brings of saving to make sure that we would have nice things in our lives. And it's so much that I've learned that it wasn't about money, it was about trust.
About trust.
I did not trust him to provide for our family. More than that, I didn't trust God. I mean, I knew God. I grew up in a pastor's family. I had all the head knowledge. But when it came to life, I thought that I had to take care of this because I didn't know that God really cared about my wants and knew about my needs. I didn't know that. I know that now.
Now you do. You know, often it's infidelity that ruins a marriage. But in your book, you talk about financial infidelity. What a great phrase. Tell us what financial infidelity looks like.
It's a secret. Just like being unfaithful in a marriage in the sexual way, I think that it's as destructive to a marriage, financial infidelity, as secret spending. I had so many debts my husband didn't know about. Carol, I had a secret post office box where I had the bills come for credit cards he didn't know I had, thinking like, oh, what was I thinking? But I'm telling you, that creates a chasm in a marriage. It breaks down trust. My husband soon learned that he could not trust me. That was that was horrible. And that our marriage survived is by God's mercy.
It is.
Is by God's mercy, keeping those secrets. And not only what you're doing with the money, but what you think in the deepest part of your heart. When you're not sharing that, being open that with your spouse, it's like being unfaithful. And it can go both ways. I mean, I talk about all kinds of not only examples and case studies in the book, but also how to deal with it.
Right. How to get from here to there. Okay, so right now let's talk to the couple who's struggling financially, deeply in debt, not communicating. Give us 3 or 4 practical things that they can do today to turn their situation around.
First of all, you've got to read this book.
Okay, good. Read the book.
There are 2
Get the
chapters
book.
in here. There's a chapter for husbands only, and there's a chapter for wives only.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, it's not about money. It's about meeting the needs of your spouse. Caring enough, loving that person enough to meet those needs. I had these deep-seated needs. I didn't even know how deep they were. And so how could my husband possibly meet them if I wasn't willing to communicate? The next thing is you've got to start talking. And even if both of you are not willing to talk about money, I really truly believe that one spouse can start changing the whole dynamic of that marriage. And that's why it's so important. Another thing is to start talking not about so much about your money, but how were you raised? How was money handled in your family? Because so many times the things we don't speak of are not even, we don't think of them ourselves. So if I grew up where my father paid all of the bills, my mother never had to worry a day in her life, he gave her plenty of money to spend, she had a wonderful house, and there was always, I may go into a marriage just assuming that's how it's going to be. And so this husband that I've married has absolutely no idea what my expectations are. I may not even know myself. So I teach in the book how to get the conversation going.
Good.
And to realize that not both of you are great at managing money. One of you will be. That's the person who should actually take care of it. It should be comfortable. It should be a way that you're planning. And then the getting out of debt, that becomes easy, Carol, because all of a sudden you've got this basis of financial intimacy, financial harmony, where you're pulling together rather than pulling apart.
Pulling apart. So let's talk for a minute about what healthy debt is and what unhealthy debt is. Let's talk about the things, some of the things that it's okay to owe on. Is there anything that you believe it's okay to owe on?
Well, I know my husband and I could have never purchased a home had it not been for something called a mortgage, a home mortgage. But you've got to realize that that's kind of a safety. There's a safety net there. If you get into the home, you hate it, you can't afford it, you sell it. There's an escape mechanism.
Got it.
A safety valve. The same would be for a car, anything that is a secured debt. That means that the lender can come back and take whatever it is in lieu of payment, and you're done. It's unsecured debt that is really horrible to a marriage. That would be credit card debt, it would be personal loans, and in some ways, we got to talk about the big elephant in the room, student debt.
Student debt, college loans.
That's right. It is a big, big problem. It's unsecured. There's no way out. You have to pay it back. And for parents looking at this, I would just caution them. Please, please, please don't go into great debt.
Right.
Far better the student carry the debt in their name and the parents help to pay it back. Students have far more options. And there are things called forgiveness, and there's ways that students can pay it off. The parents take on that debt, that stuff's all gone.
Right.
Yeah, so students have far more options. I would caution parents to keep that debt as low as possible, if at all.
Right.
Then pay it back as quickly
As possible. Okay, so now in closing, one more thing we need to cover. Tell us what 10-10-80 is.
Oh, that's a wonderful formula. I wish I would have thought of it. It goes back way, way far. But the theory is, and I totally believe this, it is a wonderful way to manage your money. And we're looking at your net income. That's what you bring home. Before you do anything else, you give away 10%.
Right.
Give it away out of gratitude for what you have. You save 10% for the long term. And we talk about that in the book. What does that mean? How much do you save? What do you do with it? And then you rein in your lifestyle so that it fits within 80% of your net income. That's a challenge. Most people are living way beyond 100% because they're living on credit. It takes a while. But it's been my joy for 24 years now to be able to lead people out of debt, to teach them how to manage money. Those who are married, those who are planning to get married, those who, anybody needs to live by the 10-10-80 rule.
Oh, Mary, thank you so much. It's been such a joy to have you with us
Thank you,
today.
Carol.
I've learned a lot, so I know others have too.